Good evening, everyone who can hear us. We have quite a number of participants, about 39 participants who have joined us, and some of them have joined till 5:45. So I welcome you all to this event, which is known as Expert Talk with GNC. This particular activity or initiative which GNC has taken is going to be really fruitful, not only for the audience per se, but also to us because it will enhance our learning and in a way help us to understand what the consumers believe and how to develop ourselves as an organization. We as an organization has always believed in living well. And when we use the term living well means is that we're talking about complete health, not just mere absence of disease. Living well means complete physical, mental, spiritual, social well-being. And in this initiative, we will be bringing in experts to you. Every weekend, we'll try to carry out two events, starting today. And where I have Dr. Vivek Sharma, along with my colleague, Ms. Muruga. Hi, Muruga.
Hi, Dr. Vivek.
Would be every weekend bringing these events to you. So the first one for today is, for this series is uh, building immunity by exercise and proteins. And we have with us Dr. Sunny Shah, a renowned sports physician and an authority in this subject.
Yes, Dr. Sanisha, I would like to welcome you again on behalf
Yeah,
of entire GNC family and the audience. I'll just speak few words about Dr. Sanisha before we take over the session. I was going through the CV and I came to know that achieving an MBBS degree was never a stop for Dr. Sanisha. He is a vivid learner, and as over the period of time, he's achieved great knowledge in the field of nutrition and fitness. And this is something very rare. Being a doctor, having that interest in the nutrition fraternity, which I can completely say, being from the nutrition fraternity. He's a certified nutrition trainer. He's a certified coach in marathon training and a sports physician graduate from International Olympic Committee. And that's not all. He's also completed post graduation in healthcare management. He has got more than 10 years of experience as a sports medical doctor, and currently he's working as a health and fitness consultant, where his main focus is to design customized fitness and nutrition plans for every individual based on their body analysis. So, Dr. Sanisha, I'd like to take it over from you and help us enlighten us with this wonderful topic for today.
yes, definitely. Thank you, Mruga. Thank you, Dr. Vivek, for getting me out here, letting me connect with people, get some good ideas on what immunity is, how exercise and protein helps them. So, first of all, yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, so just to add on to what Muruga said, is that for the past 50, 55 days, almost people have been locked in their houses and people are literally scared. COVID-19 is all around, and people are looking at ways and means to protect themselves from COVID-19. Social distancing is one of the things which people are doing. People are also focusing on their immunity. So we were always told that vitamin C is to be taken and some other things are to be taken for immunity. But can exercise really help us? So is this a way to protect ourselves from COVID-19? What is your opinion, sir?
So basically, you pointed it out right. Like I have also been getting a lot of calls regarding, doc, can I take vitamin C? Can I take vitamin C? But just taking vitamin C per se is not going to help. So today, I'll actually first get on to immunity, first making people understand what your immunity is. So immunity is basically your body defense mechanism which works against any pathogen entering the body. It could be a virus like the coronavirus which is going on. It could be a normal influenza virus, or it could be a bacteria or some toxin. So body's mechanism to work against this naturally so that you don't fall sick is known as immunity. And immunity is just not related to any infection, any inflammation also happening in the body responds to it. Like it can be a repair process, which also involves immunity. So per se, this is the basic of immunity. There are a lot of organs which are connected in the body with immunity. They can be like the thymus gland. the lymphoid tissue, which we see in the gastrointestinal tract, the spleen, which you have heard of, the lymph nodes, if people are familiar with all these scientific terminology. So, as I said, this is the basic of immunity. It's just not popping some vitamin C. You need to be overall healthy also, because all these systems are connected. So there are two types of immunity as we are dealing with today. It would be like the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. So I'll just like to share a slide on this. Maybe I can't share content on this.
So yeah, you can share screen. You can share your screen.
I'm trying.
There's an option of sharing your screen. Go down. You can share your screen and.
It's showing only the host can share in this meeting. So.
So.
One second. Yeah. I'm doing it.
I got it. Thank you.
Fine.
So basically, as I was saying, there are two types of immunity: the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. Before we get on to this, I would like to show you a photo which we are quite familiar with, which we have learned in our 10th standard, mostly sleeping at the back benches. So let's see this. Like, this is white blood cells, which we know it's the immune system. So a few of them, like we have seen the macrophages, the natural killer cells, etc., the T cells, which we have heard about. It is part of the immunity system. Then, as I was saying, the innate immunity and this thing. Yeah, like as you can see, immunity can be innate or adaptive. So basically, innate immunity is immunity which has developed genetically, the natural immunity which a person can fight against. Okay, when an organism enters the body. Then there is adaptive immunity, which is also known as learned immunity or a memory which it forms. It can be natural or artificial. Like as soon as a newborn is born, the immunity which the newborn gets from the mother, it is known as passive. From the infection which it learns, it's an active immunity. Today in the coronavirus scene, as we have seen, we are trying to get an artificial immunity with immunization, which is again active immunity. And it is a passive immunity. If you all have heard of plasma therapy, which is being tried right now to give antibodies against coronavirus. So these are a few things about immunity, which you guys should know, because we are going to be talking about immunity, protein, and exercise, the roles in it. So what happens when a pathogen enters a body? So when a pathogen enters a body, we see this, an initial response, a protective immunity and a memory is formed, which I said, which is the adaptive immunity. So the innate immunity first takes over. That's the first exposure. The blue graph which you see, it's a rise in antibody titers, the body, which takes weeks to fight the infection. So you might fall, you might get a fever or inflammation, which you record. It is because of this, the body fighting it. Once you're done with this, the body forms a memory. So suppose you get a second infection again. So the memory which you see, which is the adaptive immunity, it rises very quickly, the antibodies, to fight against the infection which you have got. You might not even realize that you have got an infection. Like I was telling you guys, the coronavirus thing also, like a secondary infection, which it might happen in case if you're not immunized, the body will already have antibodies against it fighting, like a flu virus also. So these are basic things about immunity. So people also have a question today, okay, how do I know? First of all, you need to know, how do you know that whether your immunity is good or not? So to know that there are a lot of blood works, etc., which goes on, but on an everyday basis, you're not going to run a blood test. So basically, you're not having fever, you're not lethargic, etc., which are good signs of, having a good immune system. But that again revolves around your entire lifestyle, your environment, etc., which we'll be getting into details as and when we come into it. Another slide which I'd like to show you again is the white blood cells which we have seen, like when we see on a report, the WBCs. So this is something like what a lot of people can relate to. We see leukocytes, neutrophils. I'm showing you these slides because I'll be talking on these later when I'll be talking about how exercise and protein have an effect on these. So these are certain basics. So I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can in layman's term. not getting much into technicality. So, saying all that, today's question is how do you boost your immunity? So, as I said, immunity is based like it involves thymus gland, the spleen, the lymphoid tissues, etc. So, all these things work together. So, basically, getting your environmental control, your lifestyle in control, your exercise in place, your nutrition in place. Nutrition, especially, we have been studying protein lately. So getting all those things right to boost your immunity is very important. There are certain do's and don'ts. Like the don'ts will be don't smoke. If you're having alcohol, do it in moderation. Um, do good exercise, have a good sleep, stress, etc. affects all these levels. It brings down the immunity. So you need to be in a good state of mind. You need to sleep. You need to have a good nutrition, a good lifestyle, environment, everything around. So that's what it would be the basics on immunity.
Yeah. So, as for the benefit of the audience, I would just summarize what Dr. Sanisha has said, that immunity is the ability of the body to fight infections. We have two types of immunities. We have an innate immunity, also we have an acquired immunity. Innate immunity that we have right from our birth, acquired immunity that we acquire. We don't have it innate. It is not present from our birth. And as the time passes by, our acquired immunity plays a role when the infection comes for the second time. In this case of coronavirus, acquired immunity is not helping us because we are getting exposed it for the first time. So maybe next year, if we get a similar kind of COVID infection, our acquired immunity will be better. Then Dr. Shah did talk about the WBCs, which type of WBCs are there and what's the normal count. And then he also mentioned that being immune is a balance of everything. It includes your sleep, it includes your diet, it includes your exercise and limitation of smoking and alcohol. So now coming back to the specific topic of exercise. For example, say if someone is exercising for an hour, how
Right.
that help specifically to enhance his immunity?
Okay, a good question. First of all, again, I will say let's get to the basics. What is exercise? Exercise is a deliberate, repetitive, structured movement for your physical fitness, which you have to differentiate it from your physical activity. Like, going down to the car or just climbing a flight of stairs is not counted as an exercise. It has to be a deliberate, structured program which you need to plan to enhance your health. So these has various benefits. Like according to WHO, there are standard guidelines laid down, and of course, this is research-based, evidence-based. Like you need to do at least 150 minutes of exercise per day, to get your immunity and to have, like they say, exercise is medicine. To get the benefits of exercise, you need to at least do 150 minutes of this thing. I'll just share again a slide. See, like I said, the physical activity which the WHO recommends, it should be at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercises. So what is a moderate intensity exercise? Basically, it's quite difficult to measure without having certain equipments. Like we base it on, say, 60 to 65% VO2 max. That is called a moderate intensity exercise. But being at home, how will I measure it? It will be something, if you have a fitness watch, you're working out in a zone of 130 to 150 beats per minute, your heart rate, to get that moderate intensity of the workout. So if I say over a week, I want 150 minutes of exercise, it's quite easy to put in those 30 minutes every day, like just 5 days a week. So your body also rests and recovers for your health and your immunity benefit. How does exercise help in immunity? As I said, immunity is not a single entity. It's a multitude of systems which connects everywhere. So exercise, as we know, it has a lot of benefits. It's just not muscular benefit. It can be your bone health, which helps in strengthening your bones, decreasing fracture rate, which happens. So if you decrease your fracture rate, of course, you'll be more mobile. Chances of infections are less. So that again contributes to immunity. Exercise also helps in getting down metabolic diseases. Metabolic diseases, as we know, which is quite high in our country, like diabetes or blood pressure. So diabetes in COVID-19, as we are seeing reports, people who are diabetic, we need to be careful. So exercise is one of the good reasons to do it right now, to get down your sugar levels in check, along with your medicines or whatsoever you are taking. So even blood pressure, we have seen that when we exercise, the blood pressure also falls, especially the cardio activity which we are doing, a steady state cardio, as I said, in a heart rate of zone of 130 beats per minute. Um, so exercise also helps in weight management. Having a higher body weight is itself a stress on the system. When your system is stressed, your immunity is going to go for a toss. You're going to feel more exhausted. You're going to like be lethargic. You're not going to be that active. It takes a toll on your knees, etc. Which again, everywhere it affects your system. Like your gastrointestinal system is also affected by that. So that's what it is. Talking about scientifically and technically, what we have seen through research papers, okay, we have seen C-reactive protein or CRP levels, which on blood tests, quite a few people must have seen what is C-reactive protein. So when an infection or an inflammation happens in the body, the CRP levels, the C-reactive protein levels shoot quite high. So we have noticed in our research that when we do an exercise, the CRP levels have fallen anywhere between 6 to 35%. That is decreasing the inflammation, which is quite significant. The CRP levels, even for suppose a normal individual who's not ill, it comes below the baseline when we are exercising, keeping the C-reactive protein, the inflammation in check. As I showed previously, certain photos, the macrophages, etc. So these are immunity cells which secrete certain antibodies, certain chemicals like cytokines. So cytokines are one of the chemicals which help in fighting infection. So with exercise, we have seen an increase in cytokine levels, which help in fighting infection. So this has been recorded again in research through upper respiratory tract infections, which is the easiest to measure in people who are working out. For example, if you see long distance marathon runners, often who do it in one bout without having a practice or such, you have often seen them falling ill, getting a cold, cough, or even who are practicing 5-10 kilometers. So they often get upper respiratory tract infections. So exercising on a regular basis helps getting all these levels down. We have seen exercise also stimulates neutrophils. The blood work which I had shown you, the neutrophils, the WBC count, which we see quite often, normal ratio being 40 to 70%. So we have often seen the exercise also stimulates the neutrophil production in the body. So which helps in fighting infection naturally. Certain researches, we have got an S curve or J curve. There is an open theory, which I like to throw a light on, which are again research based. And these researches are done by like scientific communities, and they have been recorded in medical journals. Like if you can look at this graph, exercise workload versus the risk of infection. When you see you're inactive, that is you're not exercising, your infection level, like if you can make out in the graph, it's a J curve. When you're exercising, having a moderate level of exercise, your risk of infection decreases. You can see the drop in the graph. But as you become an elite competitor, with exhaustive exercises, you definitely, you expose yourself to infection again, because we have seen a drop in natural killer cells through exercise again. But these elite competitors, like since Mruga mentioned, I was with the International Olympic Committee, we practice good hygiene practice, like, complete sanitization. We don't even use the same bottles, like each player has different bottles. They don't even shake hands. Like Olympic, the athletes are that scared. But yes, a moderate level of exercise, we are not going to get to the elite level, but a moderate level of exercise, definitely it helps in decreasing your chances of infection and improving your immunity. Then there is an wait 1 second. Then there is an S curve again, which I was saying, like, so since I showed you about the elite athletes. So as you see, as your workload of exercise increases, the moderate level of intensity of exercise has the most benefit effect, improving your immunity, okay? So, and if you see when again your exercise load is high, you're again going to get an infection, you expose yourself to that. So it's basically more of upper respiratory tract infections. And again, as your body adapts, you see the graph falling. So your risk of infection again goes down. So this shows that immunity, when you exercise, your immunity definitely keeps on becoming better. And just one more thing on exercise. Like as I was saying, see moderate exercise and intense exercise. The moderate exercise we have seen, time after activity. As I said, it releases cytokines, the neutrophil counts increase, etc. immediately post workout. The window period is about 3 to 72 hours. So like you see, time after activity, enhanced immune system, enhanced immune system, enhanced immune system in a moderate level of exercise. So, and there is an immunosuppression in intense exercise. But as we had seen the S curve, as you become more and more adapted, your immunity keeps on improving. Yeah, so that's what I would like to tell about exercise. That's how it would affect the immunity. So it definitely 101% improves immunity. And me being into fitness, I have observed that change in myself. Like, working out since 10 years, like barely, I can't even remember when I must have really fallen ill. It does definitely make a difference.
Again, great knowledge, sir, shared. So I'll summarize what doctor has shared. He said that exercise will help us both indirectly as well as directly. Indirectly, it will keep us fit, it will keep our weight in control, it will reduce the diabetes. Diabetes, as we know, that when the blood sugar levels are high, the risk of infection also increases. It will keep our blood pressure in control. And these are the indirect benefits that we get when we are exercising. And our inflammation levels are also good. But when we are looking at the direct thing, moderate exercise will increase our neutrophil count. Neutrophil will kill the bacteria and viruses. Also, there will be release of cytokines, which play a role in immunity. And also shared by Dr. Shah is that moderate exercise enhances your immunity level. But when you move to a severe exercise level or a high-end exercise levels, the immunity falls down. The reason for that is decline of the natural killer cells, which are natural killer cells are the first attack against the bacteria, primarily the viruses also. So the virus infections, if the natural killer cells are low, the chances increase. Therefore, if we are at a very high exercise level, we have to take extra precautions in order to reduce the chances of upper respiratory tract infection. However, if you are doing exercise in moderation, as Dr. Shah said, around 150 minutes in about a week or so, so then it is a moderation level of exercise. If you are at a higher end level, so then the chances of infection can increase. At that time, you have to take extra precautions. Means not to shake hands or use separate bottles or things like this. So thanks, sir. So this was great. So
Yeah,
also,
and one more thing, exercise also reduces your stress levels, your anxiety levels, and it improves sleep. Again, contributing to immunity, to the good lymphoid tissue, so decreasing the rate of infection again. Yeah.
great. So as I said that exercise will reduce your stress. There is a particular hormone in our body known as serotonin, which we call as happy hormone. So it keeps us happy. So by exercising, serotonin levels increase, so we stay happy. Also, exercise produces sleep because tryptophan levels become high, so we fall asleep. So stress reduces when you fall asleep. When you take a proper sleep, your immunity levels are definitely going to rise. So great, sir. Also, we would like to know about the role of proteins because all the people who are exercising, particularly the professional gymmers and all, they are taking some form of protein. So, does protein help in improving immunity?
Yes, as I said, immunity is not a single based entity, it's a multifactorial thing. So, immunity depends on your genetic again, it depends on your environmental factors, it depends on your lifestyle, it depends on your nutrition. So, recently, in the last few decades, a very new emerging study has been coming out, the branch known as nutritional immunology, which studies the impact of various nutrition products on your macronutrients or the micronutrients, that is protein, carbohydrates, fats, or your multivitamins, minerals, on your immunity. So nutritional immunology, for example, it has been studied across various geographic continents, like various races, various castes. For example, a lot of people out here must have heard about Mediterranean diet, which is the new thing coming in. People having lots of veggies, fruits, nuts, olive oil. We see a decreased incidence in coronary heart disease. That's a heart like CHD, and we see a improvement in immunity. All these are documented evidences again. So that is where basically, if you see when we are talking of nutritional immunology, as I said, we have been studying it in depth, a lot of macronutrients, especially we have been studying protein because we have seen an undernutrition happening quite a lot of time. Like what is undernutrition? Undernutrition is basically having a deficiency in energy levels or a deficiency in energy or any observable change, physical or in blood work, which is a worst case scenario. And when you supplement it with that deficient product, like for example, protein, the person bounces back to normal. So the role of protein is very important. So most of the research is based on proteins because that's where we have seen most of the people lacking. That's where people are scared about taking protein actually. So that's like kwashiorkor diseases, if you have heard of, a lot of people. So what is the role of protein again in immunity, as you asked me? So I was just explaining the basics before getting onto that. So basically, role of protein. Protein helps in growth and repair of tissues. So in this COVID-19 scenario, basically, as we are fighting infection, on a normal basis, the growth and repair of tissues is at a normal rate. The amount of tissue which you're going to break down, the same amount of protein is going to be utilized to repair the tissues. But at the same time today, since we are fighting so many infections with our weather and the kind of food we put in, it's like the breakdown is quite high in our body. So the increase of protein is also required where we are falling deficient in. Again, another function of protein is the enzyme system, your digestive enzymes, your enzyme which are used to break down sugar or for your muscle contraction or for your movement, whatsoever enzymes you can think of the body are proteins. Proteins are also messengers in the body, messengers in the sense we call them the steroids of the body, the testosterone. Testosterone is required for a healthy immunity. So protein is required for that again. Protein is required for a structural support. Structural support in the sense, I'm talking about collagen protein. Like collagen is used to repair the skin tissues or the bone tissues, the very important component. And as we spoke of innate immunity, the first line of defense. So skin is going to be your first line of defense before some organism enters in. So yes, again, that is the part of protein. As we all know today, we are talking about alkaline water, etc. So maintaining pH of the body is also very important. So protein helps in this maintenance of pH. Like your blood requires a certain pH, your enzymes require a certain pH, your organs require a certain pH. Protein is the part which helps in maintaining the pH of the blood of your various organs. It helps in maintaining your water levels. In this dehydration, proteins are the molecules which hold on water to the organs. I'm not talking about water retention, which happens in the subcutaneous tissue, which is because of usually wrong lifestyle or stress. I'm talking about retention of water in your organs, be it your skin, be it your liver, be it your kidney, be it your heart health, whatever. I'm talking about healthy retention, which is held on to by protein. It's just not about the muscles holding on to the water. Another thing is very important fact is, which people don't know, hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein which is required for transportation of oxygen in our entire body. So you can imagine the importance of protein, like, how important it is. That's what the protein would be. Importance, like the role of protein in this.
So, as you mentioned that since we are suffering from an infection, whenever we are suffering from infection, the protein requirement of the body enhances. So, how should we try to balance it? What kind of so as to meet our protein requirements, especially during these COVID times?
Okay, so basically during this COVID times, things are very limited to access to, correct? So in fact, it is one of the best things I feel, having limited access to food, because it simplifies your diet, you get the right food. So let's break it down to a vegetarian person and a non-vegetarian person. So a vegetarian person, like when you want to increase the protein content of that vegetarian person, how to get it in. Like for example, you start your day with a breakfast of say a sprouts or a glass of milk, which would give you the proteins. In your lunch, you could add dal or pulses. And in your dinner, maybe you could add something like besan, moong chila, or paneer to get the protein requirements of your body. But that would still not be enough. I will get to that part later on. In a non-vegetarian diet, the options are many. Like it's quite easy. Like for breakfast, you can just have eggs. Lunch, you can stick to a plant-based diet, because we have seen in the recent years plant-based diets having benefits. So you can just have a normal roti, sabji, dal, and at night you could just to get in the proteins, you could do chicken or a fish, or you could repeat your eggs again. So that's how we can get in the proteins from a diet.
So, Dr. Shah, since it's a lockdown and it's very difficult sometimes to get the right kind of food that you are looking for, because sometimes some people fall in some containment zone or there's something else. So if we can't get the right kind of food, then what options do we have?
Yeah. So this is an interesting fact. Being a supplement company, a lot of people will think I'm, like getting into supplements or anything. But besides that, I'd like to show you something, which is quite interesting, which has been released by the Chinese CDC. So, like if you can read this, the nutrition guidance for patients infected with coronavirus, they have advised patients to take 150 to 200 grams of protein per day to meet their requirement to fight the immunity, So intake of protein does help, and to meet this protein requirement, you're not naturally going to get it through food when we are aiming at 150 to 200 grams of protein. So that's where a role of supplements come in, like example whey. And since we are talking about immunity immunity, also the benefits of it, whey, we have seen that it is made up of bovine milk. Bovine milk is basically cow's milk or buffalo's milk, which is known to is a known immunomodulator. That is, it has positive effects on the immune system. So whey contains about 20% of bovine proteins. It is made up of alpha-lactoalbumin, beta-lactoglobulin, lactoferrin, etc., which enhances the immunity. So as I said, it's an immunomodulator. It increases the IGF levels, that is insulin-like growth factor 1, which helps in decreasing the inflammation of the body. It also whey protein is also known to stimulate neutrophils in the body, the circulating cells which fight the infection immediately. So and whey protein also has properties of probiotics, that is helping the normal gut flora to flourish, and it has antimicrobial properties. So when you're consuming whey protein, you will see that you'll have less of stomach infections, etc., because it acts as a natural probiotic for the growth of the good bacteria like lactobacillus, and it has antimicrobial properties because of the alpha-lactoalbumin, etc., which helps in fighting any other infection which you have consumed through food by mistake or something. So, and one more interesting thing is about supplements is it's the quick absorption, the high digestibility, and very convenient. So, and I believe in completely high quality supplements. Like, it's not like there are various products available in the market, but having a high quality whey protein, it makes it way easier to add protein to your diet. And with my practice, with my patients, I do it with a kid also, and I do it with an elderly who must be 84, 85 years also. And it's so safe that, I do it even with a pregnant woman. So yes, I would recommend, getting in a supplement to. And another interesting fact is supplements, which we have seen according to the studies in the US and the Europe, the UK. So we have seen that about 55% of the population takes supplements just to benefit their health. So that those being developed nations, about 55% taking supplements means it has something good effects. Otherwise, as we all know, the US government would just get it down.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, Dr. Shah has mentioned that as per CDC, close to 150 to 200 grams of protein intake is there if you want to protect yourself from COVID-19. This is a really high amount of protein that is needed, especially for the next 2 to 3 months when the chances of infection are very high. So, Dr. Shah, we are also getting any number of questions from our consumers and
Right.
the participants who are there in this program. So, it would be nice if you can answer a few questions which they have asked.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
yeah. Ruga, can you please take it up?
Sure, Dr. Vivek. Am I audible enough? Am I
Yeah, we
audible?
can go. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Sanisha, for an insightful information. In fact, it was a great learning for us also, understanding about the importance of whey protein, understanding the importance of exercise, how it can actually affect your entire life and not just immunity per se. So we have few questions over here. So all the participants over here, I will just request you all to put up your questions in the chat board below, so we can answer all those questions were not been discussed in the Dr. Sanisha's session. So we can cover all the important questions that you all have. So everybody requesting to put up your questions. Meanwhile, Dr. Sanisha, we
Yeah.
already have few questions over here. I'll just read it out for you.
Yeah, sure.
There is one more question. If I'm active throughout the day and given 10,000 steps a day, will it
Yeah.
be counted as doing exercise?
Yes, so see, this is a very good question. So we have, as I showed you, according to WHO, we differentiate exercise and we differentiate physical activity. Okay, exercise immediately creates, as I said, it helps in building your immune system immediately after the exercise, right? Physical activity is what she's talking about, which is 8 to 10,000 steps in a day. That is being active for good health. The immunity effect will also be there, but not as great as doing a. Yeah. So as I was saying, what she's talking about is physical activity. You have to differentiate it with exercise, which gives an immediate boost in your immune system. Yes, even a physical activity is going to boost your immune system, but not as much as exercise. So you could just put in those extra 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, like, going ahead, like, you could just do a walk, a brisk walk at home, or you could do a skipping, or there are a lot of online workouts. People who are into yoga, they could do some intense form of yoga. So yes, you do need to still add exercise to that physical activity of the day.
Okay. So the next question that I will go about is, so what kind of exercise you suggest inside the houses, as we are not able to run outside? So can you suggest some cardio workout which can be done inside home and can burn some calories as much as we burn in our 10 kilometers run?
See, the first of all, as much as you want to burn in a 10-kilometer run, it's again an individual basis, right? So how much you're going to burn, what's your body weight, etc. So 10-kilometer counting, for some people it can be 60 minutes, for some people it can be 45 minutes, for some people it can be even 75 minutes. But to get that intensity of workout, you could get into a high intensity interval training at home, which is also known as Tabata training. If you could look up Tabata training, it is quite interesting, which has 4 minutes of quite high intensity exercise, like you do a 20 minutes of high intensity exercise, 10 seconds rest, 20 minutes. So such 8 sets you're going to do for at least for about 20 minutes. You could get in those Tabata workouts along with your other kind of workouts to get that high intensity of your workout.
Okay. So I suppose the Tabata full form is also something related to our thighs, or maybe
Yeah.
the down part. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
it's a very interesting the kind
It's
of
one
an
of the
exercise.
best ways to get in a high calorie workout done in 20 minutes.
Yes, definitely. So there is one more question which I feel every vegetarian actually faces when it comes to in scenario of protein. There is
Yeah.
one more question from Dipsy. What should a vegetarian consume in evening after 5 p.m. as in protein and food and not in the form of supplement, like for dinner or snacks at 6 p.m. or after workout protein after 6 p.m.?
So what should after workout you're saying, right?
Yes, so
after 6
probably
p.m.
as a snack probably at 6 p.m. or even if I'm having a workout, probably after 6 p.m.
So see, it depends on what your entire day schedule is, how much protein requirements you're going to meet in your day. So in the form of a vegetarian, as I said, one of the easiest way to supplement is with whey protein. Just get in a whey isolate, a high quality protein, easily digestible, completely absorbed, and it goes right into your muscles. Then it helps in repair. It even helps in reducing the oxidative stress post workout, helping in again building immunity. Another, if you ask me, a natural source, like it would be paneer, but it's a slow release protein. It's like a casein. But if you don't want to get into supplements, you can go get into a casein or some chila or something. But I would still suggest to go in with a supplement because it's easier and you get the full benefits of it. You can't get like 25 grams of protein which you need post workout just with having so much of paneer, which is like quite impossible.
I would like to add on, Mr. Shah over here, and probably maybe ask you a question. You can help me. How about a soy protein? Because soy is something not really considered by the people to take it in the form of supplement also, or as a natural source also.
Yeah,
But
correct. So see, even soy protein, it's good for people who are onto a vegan diet today. Like otherwise, I myself, don't recommend soy protein so much. Not because it has the link with it increases female hormones in the body. It's nothing to be done with that. But yes, for people who are vegan, they can definitely put in soy protein. But one thing I would say, comparing to whey protein and a plant protein, which is a soy protein, whey protein, the PDCAs, which we count, like, the absorption rate of it and the effectiveness is 100%. Whereas of a plant protein or soy protein would be 60 to 70%. But it would still be recommended to have a soy protein as a form of a supplement rather than having so much of soy. Because, along with that protein in the soy, you're also going to get an increase in fat levels.
okay, okay. Thank you so much. There is another question is in current scenario where we are doing a light workout due to lockdown. Sorry. Should I take protein supplements as normally I was taking before the lockdown?
Yes, so in the current scenario, a light workout, see, it depends again, it's, manipulated. Like, a light workout might be light for you, not for someone else. But any which ways, you should be taking in at least, like with my patients who I'm dealing with right now, I keep them at a level of 120 grams of protein per day at least. So you should be at least consuming anywhere between 100 to 120 grams of protein. And if you ask me, most of my patients will be consuming at least 3 to 4 scoops of whey protein in the day. Yeah, despite of the lockdown and having light workouts. So because as I said, the importance of protein is there in each and every part, and it helps in building immunity.
Okay, so they would be taking right now the whey protein of the 3 4 scoops, which you would be recommending.
But yeah, as again I said, they have to look out the entire thing for their entire day. I know
Definitely.
my patient's profile, right?
Definitely. So that is a very important, I think, point that you have suggested that
Yeah,
before taking a protein, it's very important to understand the entire day's, schedule of a
yeah,
person. Yes, unless and until you cannot really, include a lot of
yeah.
protein in your diet. Yes,
Yes. So it's
definitely.
like, we see your today trainers suggesting, okay, ye le, wo le, and people come up with a lot of health problems. I understand they are trainers, respect them, but it's not their, field where they should recommend how much protein to take, what supplement to take. It, it's pretty much wrong, and people go and follow it. Abhi workout nahi kar raha hai, protein mat le. Abhi workout kar raha hai, raat ko protein le. I'm like, it's just ridiculous. It doesn't work like that. So
Yes,
you have to be scientific about it because you're talking about health out here. You're not
yes.
just talking about bodybuilding and you're going on a stage.
Yes, it's like giving a shock to your body. Suddenly, something is stopped.
Yeah.
Body getting. Yeah, yeah, definitely. There is one more question. When even probably many of us and probably even I face and think about it is how Surya Namaskar is good for our daily life routine. Probably in the lockdown, and how many should we be doing? Like, is 10 enough? Surya Namaskar every day?
Okay, so very interesting question. Okay, I've been asked that quite a lot of times by a lot of patients. Okay, see, yoga is something very good. Like it helps in meditation. It helps in activating a lot of systems. But one thing you need to understand, If you have never done yoga, like you're 40 right now, or you're 35 right now, or you're 50 right now, all of a sudden getting into yoga is a bad idea because you need that flexibility. You're going to do more harm to your joints than doing something good. A Surya Namaskar is not easy. It bends your entire vertebral column. It comes onto your shoulders. So rather than that, stick to conventional what you have been doing. Why you want to just go in and do 10 Surya Namaskars? Do you have that flexibility first of all? Like at an age of 45, you're telling me I'm going to do 10 Surya Namaskars. I'm like, for what? You've never done it just because it's a lockdown. You're doing something new. No, but people who are into yoga or you who are instructors, get a guidance from them. Start with the basic. It's not like tomorrow you're going to come to me and I'll tell you to jaake 100 kilos ka like 100 pounds ka dumbbell maar de. It's completely wrong. Like I cannot tell you 10 number is right or 2 number is right. You need to start with the basics of everything.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So we are actually getting a lot of questions, Dr. Shah, and one of the question is right now for the elderly that what about the 50 plus year old people? How could they handle their exercise during the lockdown? And is dedicated walking of 3 hours is good enough for them?
Oh, 3 hours walking, that would be amazing because even I can't do 3 hours walking, even if the lockdown is not there. But yeah, so see, if you have a fitness watch at home, you could wear that. As someone asked, how many steps are required, you could do 8 to 10,000 steps in a day. Since you're 50, it's not that an old age, you can get into good workouts. You could do a brisk walk at home, or you can just do staircase climbing in the building, maintaining social distancing, of course. You could do yoga, as I said, power yoga. You could do skipping at home, as I said, or there are many various options, Like you can do body combating. Like 50 years is not a limit for anyone, I feel. Because 50 years, you're still moving about, you can do things. And 3 hours walk is quite a lot. If you can put in 3 hours walk, it's amazing. Seeing that you're not reaching exhaustion in this summers.
Yes, definitely. And since we were talking about the yoga, there is one more question which I would like to also connect is that how about protein? Should we be consuming protein supplement when somebody is doing yoga regularly?
Of course. So you see, yoga, as I said, of course, you should be consuming protein. I would suggest, first of all, to get into this, people who are not exercising also should consume protein because it is required for your day-to-day basis for each and every action in the body, for your immunity. So it's just not about muscle building or you're exercising and you need protein. No, you need for your daily function. So protein is needed. And of course, if you're doing yoga, you should take because yoga involves a lot of stretching which stretches the muscles, the blood flow to the muscles increases, the blood flow to different organs increases, and supplementing with something like a whey hydrolysate or whey isolate, getting that protein right into those organs is very beneficial.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
There's one more question. This is now for a 7-year-old kid. My
Yeah.
kid is 7 year and is into swimming championship, and all we are vegetarian. So, what
Yeah.
do you suggest protein powder for a 7-year boy? What is a protein alternative for him? And this, Dr. Shah, before you start, I want to say that there are a lot of questions that are coming up. That what should we eat when you are in a vegetarian diet to improve our protein intake?
Yeah, okay. So I'll answer both the questions. So for the swimmer who's a 7-year-old, okay. So basically, whey supplement is considered safe, okay, for each and every one. It is not dangerous. It is a documented evidence. Let's get into the side effects of whey so people clear out on this when you're giving it to your kid or you're giving it to an elderly. Whey per se does not have side effects. The side effects are very minimal. It might be a headache, it might be a nausea, or it might be a stomach upset initially when you're dealing with whey protein. But there is no dangerous side effect when you're having a high quality protein, which is just a whey isolate supplement. It is not related with, it does not have add-ons. Like today we get a lot of add-ons in the market. So the 7-year-old who's having, we need to meet his requirements because he's in a growing phase. So whatever his weight is, so for him the requirement would be at least 2 grams per kilogram of protein per day. So if he's weighing 20 kilos, he requires 40 grams of protein in the day. In that way, we can supplement with whey scoop, like, he could have, say, about half a scoop of protein, which would give him 12 grams from the whey protein. And other 32 grams, he can supplement it with the food sources around. The food sources around, one of the complete proteins which we get from food would be paneer, because it has all the essential amino acids. But the thing is, you need to have a fat-free paneer or a low-fat paneer. Other options would be like you could include nuts, but again, you can't have too much of nuts if you have cholesterol issues. In a kid, you can give it; it's not a problem. You could add soya to your diet. You can add pulses. You can add dals. You can add as I said, pulses, dals, sprouts. There are various options in vegetarian diet, but it doesn't. As an adult, it would not fulfill your requirement for the day. It's not that easy.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's not easy for a vegetarian to fulfill their
Yeah.
diet. In fact, sometimes even a non-vegetarian gets it difficult for them to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Shah. One more question. It is awesome to have you online, Dr. Sunny Shah. My mother has arthritis and her medicines are a heavy dose. She goes for
Right.
motions frequently, which makes her feel
I
very
think
weak, and she feels her immunity may not be good currently. She does
Correct.
yoga every morning, but can you suggest something to boost her energy levels and immunity?
Yeah. So basically, how old is she? You said.
He's not mentioned the age of his mother, but his mother is facing arthritis and the medicines on a heavy dose medicine.
So yes, so see, when you're facing arthritis, is an inflammatory process in the body. Okay, so inflammatory process is again induced by immunity when your immune system is trying to fight off the inflammation. So and I think he said that he has a stomach upset or something, right? Loose motion.
Yes, yes. So she goes for
So
motions a lot of time.
yeah, so what you could do is, as I said, adding paneer, even adding curd or chas, basically curd, which is again a rich source of protein, can be added to your diet. It's a prebiotic which helps in healthy gut. So she can add curd or chas to the diet at least once in the day. She can have various like the medicines which cause the oxidative stress in her body to reduce that. She can have other supplements like vitamin E, vitamin C, but yes, under supervision, not like unlimited. So she can have those things. And yes, exercising and mobility is a must for her to reduce the inflammation. And post that, she could put an ice pack or something.
Okay, so Dr. Shah, for your convenience, he's replied. She's 50 years old.
Okay, so 50 years old, so definitely for her, she has no health issues, etc. Other than arthritis of her kidney functions, liver function, etc. is very good. She can do a curd if she wants to increase the protein in that. She could just add a scoop of whey in that again. Again, I'm talking about whey because it helps in improving your health overall. It helps in increasing energy level first of all, because you're meeting your protein requirements of the body, and it is very good for arthritic patients. In fact, with a lot of my arthritic patients, I do mass gainers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so I'll just club few questions over here. There are a lot of questions asking about the sleep, how sleep contribute to our healthy body. Because nowadays, due to lockdown, since we are all at home, our sleep patterns, our cycles have really changed.
Yeah.
So, will that affect my immunity? That is what a lot of people are asking us.
Yes, of course. See, your body is going to get affected by the change in sleep pattern also. Because sleep, as we all know it, see, all the glands are connected. The thymus gland, the spleen, everything. The signals are sent out from the brain. Okay. As doctor had mentioned before, there are serotonin levels and etc. The dopamine levels and the serotonin levels play a very important part. And since yours it has been secreted at a particular time as like you're happy, like when you're sleeping is also a stress-free region where your dopamine levels again increase in the brain, and dopamine levels are related to your immunity again. So getting your sleep back into routine is very important, because tomorrow when you're going to go back to work and all of a sudden you get up at a different time, it's not going to work. You need to set your body systems right again. So as I said, dopamine, there is tryptophan and tyrosine again, which are protein based, okay? And these are related not only to immunity, but it is related even to your good sleep and to your stress levels. So all these things are required.
Okay. So I will take two more questions now, and you can always share. Participants can always share their questions, and probably we'll answer them later on, and with the help of Dr. Sunny Shah, and we will post it and let you know. Sure, that would work, Dr. Vivek Sharma.
Yeah, we can take a few more questions. We have some 4-5 minutes, and then perhaps.
Okay, so I'll take few more questions, and then probably if we are not able to answer a few questions, we'll definitely take guidance of Dr. Shah, and we will let you all know, probably post it on our website or social media. Yes. So continuing Dr. Shah, there is one more interesting question on protein. What is the correct time to consume protein, and is it supposed to be consumed like pre-workout or post-workout, or morning after breakfast or snack in the evening? Is there any specific time to consume protein?
Okay, first of all, yes, let's talk about the correct timing. One of the very interesting topics, okay? The correct time to, if you're working out, okay, and if you're consuming a whey isolate, the best time would be to have protein in the half an hour gap after the workout, because that's the anabolic window which you're targeting at your muscle groups. But that per se, there's no correct time. You know, you can have it in the morning with your breakfast, you can have it with your lunch, you can have it with your dinner. So what I do with my patients is each and every meal I see to that I'm making them consume at least 40 grams of protein in additional to the post-workout protein which we add on. So there's no correct time because protein is going to be required throughout the day. Yes, but post-workout to get the benefits of it, immediately half an hour of that workout.
Okay. So, because a natural source of protein, we need to keep taking it all throughout our day.
Correct.
There is one more question connecting to this, that is pre-sleep protein ingestion helpful in maintaining a positive protein balance? Because many times
Yes.
we heard that you take casein as a protein, it's a slow digesting before you sleep, and that will help maintain positive balance. So, I would like you to share a little bit of information on this, Mr. Shah.
Yeah, so basically at sleep, it's so in sleep, as one of them asked me, you said, is it important to have a good sleep cycle? Yes, it is required for recovery. Recovery is important for immunity again, and it so definitely that is the question answer to the previous part. But it helps in recovery because it increases the nitrogen balance, that is availability of the nitrogen to the muscles. So having a casein at night, which is a slow release, when you're recovering, there's a slow release of proteins over a period of 8 hours. So you require that slow release protein at night to maintain a positive nitrogen balance for recovery.
So,
And
is
as I
there
said, protein is linked to a lot of enzyme systems. It even helps in inducing growth hormone, like, which a lot of athletes and bodybuilders are interested in. It naturally stimulates that when you have a scoop of casein at night.
Okay, and there is one more question. After this, I'll just take one question and we'll end the session. Talking about protein, should we be taking, is it okay to take protein on an empty stomach?
Or yes, you can take it on empty stomach. There are no restrictions to that. So you can take, but the thing is, if you're a new beginner, I always suggest that have some fruit or some carbohydrate meal before consuming protein, because when you're a beginner, it requires an insulin spike to get that protein absorbed in your body. So on getting up, instead of just popping into a protein shake, just have a fruit like a banana, which takes about 20 minutes to digest, and then just have a whey protein. So you have a balance of both. It opens up the channels in the body, and your protein is absorbed better.
Okay, thank you so much. This last question, I will club two questions and we'll end the session. Along with protein, what are the other necessary vitamins and food components that we have to take? Because right now, vitamin C is kind of a hero among all the vitamins. How long should we be actually taking vitamin C supplement is the question.
Okay, so very interesting question again. So a lot of my patients, I tell them, boss, have a healthy diet, put in lime water or something, you're going to get your vitamin C in. Just having a vitamin C, you're going to get your immunity up. No, it doesn't work like that. You need to get everything together. If you're exercising, if you're having a good sleep, if you're having your proteins, yes, then do supplement with vitamin C. It's one of the best antioxidants. Okay, you can have other antioxidants such as vitamin E. You could have zinc. So all these, zinc is a mineral, okay? You could have magnesium, but all these things need to be done for a limited time, because certain fat soluble vitamins, when taken over a longer period of time, it is more toxic than doing good to the body. So you could take it just for a period of say 10 to 21 days, depending on how heavy workout also you are doing. If you have a lazy life, just take it just for 10 days to get the benefits out of it, because it will be stored in the body. You don't require it after that. And there are various antioxidant supplements which can be added, just one pill a day, like multivitamins. Just one pill which has all the multivitamins and antioxidants can be taken on a daily basis.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanisha.
I-
We are really getting very informative and very good comments also. I would like Dr. Vivek Sharma to take it over from here.
So we summarize the event now. As mentioned by Dr. Shah, that should we do exercise? The answer is yes. We have to do exercise to enhance our immunity. We have discussed how exercise helps in enhancing immunity. And as Dr. Shah also mentioned, that we have to increase our protein intake to about 150 grams per day if we want to protect ourselves from COVID-19, as mentioned by CDC. So that's a great learning for us. So we have to take a note of this and try to increase our protein intake. And thank you, Dr. Shah. Thank you very much for this elaborate session. And I also would like to thank the audience who have been there since 5:45. And so I really want to thank everyone who was participating there and who has asked questions.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Vivek, and thank you, Murga, also.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, and the wonderful audience that we had.